Hello, Revere, and welcome to another great Revere Veterans and Community Show. Today I have a lawyer. He's a real estate lawyer of 15 years, folks. His name is Jeff Russ. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you, Morris. Thank you for having me.
Jeff is here because he's running for the Registry of Deeds, but he will explain to the people out there about the real estate law and about the homestead exemption. Is that right?
Yes.
Homestead. Okay.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm
Before we start, Jeff, I had a couple of people that asked me to ask you a question. Can I do that?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. What is the declaration of the homestead law and exactly what is homestead protection?
Oh, the homestead protection is a law that allows folks who own homes to file a document with the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds for a fee of $35. And in the case of senior citizens or disabled, the Homestead Act protects folks against unsecured creditor liens and some medical bills up to the limit of $500,000 per person.
Did you say five?
Five.
Because when I went on the computer, it said
Sure.
2000 when it first came out, November the 2nd.
Yes.
It says only 300,000, so they've increased it since then?
Yes, in 2011, the state legislature increased the homestead levels for senior citizens and disabled folks, and that level is now $500,000 per person, so it's $1 million per married couple.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Now, let me ask you, is there any age limit before, because I got another question right here. It says here, who can file a homestead protection? But is there any age limit, like a child under 18, can he do that?
Well, you need to be old enough to enter into a contract, so you probably
What's
need...
this? Oh,
So 18, I don't think you could purchase a home until you're 18 and you can enter into a legal agreement to, binding legal agreement
Right.
to purchase a home. But once you do purchase a home, anyone who purchases a home is eligible to file the Homestead Act exemption. And if you're under 62 and you file for a homestead exemption, that level is a $250,000 per protection per person in a married couple. There is, if you do not file a homestead exemption, there's an automatic $125,000 protection.
here's a question I'd like to ask you, if I may. Let's say a married couple, I'm over 62.
Yes.
My wife is disabled, but she's under 62. Can they both file the $500,000?
That's a great question, Morris. Yes, they can both file for the exemption. If you
And they both get the $500,000?
Yes, they both get so the $500,000 exemption applies at the age of 62 or to folks who are disabled.
Okay, that means that would be a total of $1 million.
Yes, that would be a total of $1 million protection from from unsecured creditors or medical bills or things like that, as long as they're not state-related Medicaid medical bills. It does not protect you against mortgage liens. It does not protect you against tax liens
You
from
mean the IRS
states,
can
cities,
still
and towns.
come after you?
The IRS, the states, and the cities and
So the
towns
homestead
can still.
does not protect you against...
It doesn't protect you against taxes, nor does it protect you against state Medicare charges that are charged back, such as public benefits.
I'd like to go back to this question one more time.
Yes.
I said if I'm over 62 and my wife is under 62, disabled, both $500,000.
Yes.
My wife is under 62 and she is not disabled. Can she still, the $500,000 will come in there?
She's still eligible for the homestead protection if she files the documentation, and we're going to show that to you in just a minute, but that would only give her a $250,000 homestead exemption.
In other words, a disabled person under 62 gets $500,000.
Yes.
And
Yes.
a person under 62 who's not disabled gets $250,000.
Exactly, Morris.
Exemption. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm only a layman, so you got to bear with me.
I think you're pretty well versed in this law. You're a quick study.
Am I? Okay. Before we continue, is there anything you would like to elaborate on that, though?
As far as the homestead exemption, we just encourage folks to do it. I was door knocking in Winthrop, and I met a family, actually, and they invited me into their home last Sunday afternoon, and I thought they were going to feed me. But when I got into the living room, one of them went upstairs and came down with the homestead document, and they needed help figuring out how to fill it out. It's a document that has to be completed by the person signing it. It got mailed to the Registry of Deeds with a fee of $35, but don't forget that it needs to be notarized. So someone needs to witness the signature on the form for the applicant.
Also, you can take it to get it document?
Yes, yeah, you
Is
would have
there
to
a-
take it to a bank or a notary public somewhere after you complete the form, notarize the document in front of a notary who's really just witnessing your signature, and then you can mail it in.
Maybe, I don't know, can we show them what the document looks like?
Sure, if we have that document,
If they can bring it up on the TV, the document, there it is.
There,
Would you
that's-
explain that to the people, just what they would have to do?
Great. So what you would do is you would fill it out and you would put your name at the top of the document at section 1, and then you would go through owner information. And if it's a single party over 22, you would check that box, which is the first one. Or if you fall under a different
Excuse me?
category, you would check one of the other boxes
Did
in
you
section
say
2.
over 22? So that is the age limit now?
No, that is section 1 over the age of 62.
Oh,
Yeah, that's box number 1 in section 2 right here on the form if you follow down. And then you would fill out your information. Your deed would be recorded in Suffolk County in section 4 if you are filling out this form. And then you would take the document to the Registry of Deeds to find the book and page number of your deed if you don't already know it. And you would take the document to a notary public and sign the document in front of a notary public at a bank or a local office. And after your signature is notarized, you can mail the document in with a check for $35.
right, Mr.
And the check
Ross?
gets made payable to the Commonwealth of
$35
Massachusetts.
they gotta
Yes.
pay?
Yes.
Each party, or $35 for both spouse and husband and wife, or is it 35 each?
If you own the property jointly, you can file one homestead exemption. You can file one document, but you would need to make sure that both parties sign and notarize the document and that you include both parties in section 1 of the form that we just showed you.
Right, and when you said you could take it to the Registry of Deeds,
Yes.
it has to be in the county you are in?
It has to be in the county that you're in. So if you live in Revere, you're in Suffolk County, and the
Oh, I see.
Registry of Deeds is at 24 New Chardon Street in Boston, downtown.
Also, in other ways like Malden, Chelsea, Winthrop, and Boston, which are part of Suffolk County, they would go to the Registry of Deeds?
Actually, Suffolk County, that's a great question. Suffolk County is Boston, Winthrop, Chelsea, and Revere. If you live in Malden, you're in a different county, so you would go to a different place. So all the residents of Revere, Winthrop, Chelsea, and Boston would file their documentation for the homestead exemption at the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds, which is in Boston, downtown at 24 New Chardon Street.
Right. The reason I mention that because, this show goes out to different parts of the
Of course.
city, state. So if
Great.
people see it that are not of those 4 cities that you mentioned, they just go to their own Registry of Deeds office.
Exactly, yeah. You would go to your own Registry of Deeds
Okay.
office, depending on what county you're in.
Now, I want to go back to you at the beginning.
Sure.
You've been a real estate lawyer for 15 years.
Yes.
Tell us a little about where you went to school.
Yep. Great. Yeah, I went to school at Northeastern University in
Very good
Boston.
law school, by the way.
It was a great law school. They have a cooperative program, so you get working experience during the course of your studies. But when I graduated from law school and I was admitted to the bar, my first cases were with legal services defending veterans from eviction from their homes. And these veterans, the families that I worked with, the veterans had PTSD, and they were being evicted by the housing authority because of their PTSD. So I worked and defended those cases. I took on multiple veterans
How did
cases
that
over
work
the
out,
years.
if I
and-
may ask you, Jim?
Well, we had to appeal, but we won every single one.
Congratulations. Anything you do for a veteran, we love you, friend. We
Well, you
love
know, my grandfather was a veteran and he served in World War II, and my nephew is serving in the armed services. He enlisted earlier this year, so he is in basic training
Is he?
in Mississippi, yes. So.
Thank you for your service, young man.
Yes, and so I just have to give a shout out to all of the families who have served our country or who have family members serving our country, because not only do our veterans make the sacrifices to keep our country safe and to keep America safe, but the families make big sacrifices being without loved ones. So I just want to give a shout out to everybody out there and let everybody know how much I appreciate you.
And we appreciate you for what you do for the veterans. But since you mentioned veterans, if a veteran has a problem and he cannot afford a lawyer, are there pro bonos?
There are pro bonos. I know I'm not, there is a pro bono legal service called Volunteer Legal Services.
It's called what?
Volunteer Legal Services, and
Yep.
it's downtown Boston, and they do eviction defense and foreclosure defense, and I've been a pro bono attorney with her for the last 15 years.
So that's pretty good. So
Yes.
any veteran out there,
Yes. here we
By
go.
the way, if they wanted, they can even contact you for help if they wanted to.
Oh, sure. If people need, I mean, that's why I'm running for this office, because everywhere I go in every neighborhood, there are people who need access to information, and they need help solving problems like deeds, liens on their properties, correcting title issues and boundary disputes. I met a family in Winthrop who has they live on the beach, they have a beachfront property, and their deed doesn't say who pays for the seawall. And they're required to put a seawall in because of the rising tides. And so they've spent $15,000 of their savings on legal fees, and it's a retired teacher and retired postal worker. And so this is, you know, a home is the most important investment a family will make in their lifetimes, and this election is an important election because you know, some of these legal problems that arise around the practices at the Registry of Deeds can financially devastate a family. So I'm running for the Registry of Deeds so I can implement practice policies at the Registry of Deeds that will proactively prevent some of these issues from happening and help keep people in their homes. I'm running to protect people's homes.
Right. Now, if people wanted to contact you, can you give them a phone
Sure,
number or
yes.
an email number?
Absolutely. My office number is 617-338-4040, and my website is www.jeffross.org, jeffross.org. So,
And where are you located, Jeff?
my office is located downtown Boston on Mass Ave near Boston Medical Center. So we're right in the heart of the city and right in the middle of Suffolk County.
Now I'm going to ask you another question before
Great.
I get back into the legal here.
Sure.
Are you married?
I have 2 children, actually. I have a son. My son is 20. He is living in Washington State. He is starting his junior year at the University of Washington, studying business and technology, computer programming and engineering
Wow.
types of things.
Fantastic.
You know, he inherited his grandfather's engineering skills. And my daughter actually is just graduated from high school. She's 18 years old, and she is starting in a few days at Boston College. So I'm so
Excellent
happy.
school.
It is a great school. She wants to study business, and she wants to study psychology, and she, you know, goes out and she does her volunteer time. She spent some time working last summer in camps helping elderly folks. And so basically, they're great kids. They're great kids. I'm so excited that she's staying locally because you always want your children near you, right? I grew up in a family with strong family values, and you know, and family was very important to us. And when my mom was a waitress, she worked for minimum wage, and so I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who taught me all sorts of things I didn't know, like how to knit.
Right.
But one of the things that she did was took us to church every Sunday, especially in our teenage years when we didn't want to go. And you know, we spent our afternoons recycling newspapers for senior citizens and taking food to folks who couldn't get out of their homes, and shoveling their snow, and just making sure that people in the community were neat. So she instilled those values in me, and that's one of the reasons why I've spent my lifetime essentially working to improve the quality of lives of folks all across Suffolk County.
Right. Now, you've come down to the Revere Senior Center.
Yes.
How did you like it over there?
I had a great reception there. I mean, I've made so many friends over the course of this campaign. And you just see the same people over and over again, and you get to catch up on, you know, what's going on with their families and how their health is doing. And, you know, we have a lot of fun together.
Now, do some of the people, when you came down, I know, did they come over to you and ask legal questions?
Some people came and asked legal
Such
questions.
as, now you can tell us where.
Yeah,
You
actually,
don't mention any names.
I won't mention any names, but I met a gentleman who lives here in Revere. He had a lien on his property. He still has a lien on his property, and the lien was filed 45 years ago before he put the homestead protection on his home. And so he has, you know, before he can't refinance his property and get a lower interest rate because this lien is out there and pending. And he's tried to contact the people who put the lien on his property, but he just can't find them. So one of the things I did was gave him my telephone number, and when I go back to the senior center, I'll check on him and make sure that you know, he's working on some of the tasks and the assignments I gave him to pull the records together to look for ways to get that lien off of his property. And that's what I do as a lawyer, is I just love being out there and doing pro bono work for people in the community, especially people who need access to information. I'm running to protect people's property rights and running to protect people's homes, because a home is the most important asset that you will have in your lifetime, and it's our security. It's our family security.
Right. But I was going to ask you, does Social Security in any way affect the Homestead Act?
It does not. I mean, if you are on Social Security and you live on a fixed income, I mean, you struggle like my family and work to make your ends meet and pay your bills every single month, but it doesn't affect your eligibility to file for Homestead Act protection.
Right.
One of the things I've met folks out across the community is, and one of the things I will fight for when I get elected to Suffolk County Registry of Deeds on September 8th, is to make sure that folks who live in senior housing are not required to participate in the meals program. I've just met seniors all across Revere who feel like they don't want to participate in the meals programs. It's debiting money from their monthly budgets, and that's
Right.
putting a huge strain on families, and we have to let people make their own choices. So, you know, I'm running to be an advocate for people that are in any type of housing.
You mentioned something that came across me, that, in other words, if you have a lien on your house, prior to the Homestead Act, that lien remains on that house until
Right.
it's taken off?
Yeah, the lien remains on the house, and if you can't find the original lien holder,
Right.
then you have no way of getting that lien off of your house to refinance it. You have to pay that debt, unless there are things that you can do in court and you pursue different options.
Right, but let's say the original owner doesn't exist anymore.
Yes. So one of the
So what do you do?
So the solution for this man is to pull all of the records together and figure out who the original lien holder is, and send certified letters to the original lien holder.
And what happens
and
if there
demand
is no
letters.
more original lien holder?
After you give them notice, then you can file an action in court, and you can
And
go.
they could eliminate that?
Yep, you can go to the court here in Suffolk County, and you can challenge the lien, and if nobody responds to the lien, then it's likely that a judge, but we can't tell what would happen exactly, but it's likely the judge would do it. And so the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds is where people's property rights are protected or taken away. It's a very important office to every, I've met folks in every single neighborhood who need help either filing a homestead exemption, who want a copy of their deed but can't afford to pay the fees, who have liens on their property or are looking to refinance but can't do that and get their interest rates down. So I will have a mobile registry of deeds, which is essentially what I do now, and that's being at senior centers and out in communities and talking to folks about what the registry does and sharing stories about a success that we've had while I've been on this campaign trail, so that people know the types of services that we can provide and the type of information that's available to them. And that's why I'm asking people to vote for me on September 8th.
I have a terrific question for you, but before I do, how do you notify the person that there is a lien on his property? Like, let's say, I might have a lien on my property.
Sure.
And how would I be notified?
You would be notified originally that there was a debt that you owed, and you would probably be, you know,
Would it
you
be
would,
by registered mail?
you would get notice that you had a court hearing, and if you
Oh,
didn't
it's got to be
appear,
in court?
yes, a creditor has to take you to court to get a judgment on any type of.
So you mean I have to
debt.
go to a courthouse with the creditor?
Yes, and if the judge decides that you are responsible for the debt, then
Oh, I see.
they get a judgment for that lien. Now, there are other types of liens that could be presented. A gentleman that I met had taken out a grant for a nonprofit, and there were reporting requirements that weren't met for that grant, and so there could be a contract originally that just allows an automatic lien on your property without going to court. So a mortgage is a lien on your property. An unsecured creditor debt could result in a lien on your property if you sign a contract that you promise to pay somebody, and if you don't, that you could automatically have a lien placed on your property depending on the contract language. So
Okay.
these are the reasons why we need a register who understands like real estate and the legal elements around it, so that we can explain it to folks and make the information accessible to everyone in Revere.
Very good. Excuse me now, Jeff, I got a good question for
Sure.
you. I wish this guy would learn how to write a little English, but no offense. I hope I can read this. It says, will my homestead declaration protect my home from being taken if I go into a nursing home? In other words, if someone goes into a nursing home,
Right.
that's protect.
If you are receiving state benefits and public assistance for coverage of the medical costs of going into a nursing home, then those costs become state fees by the state of Massachusetts, and any federal, state, or local municipality tax or fee can be a lien on your property that is not protected by the homestead exemption.
Even though you may have the homestead exemption?
Yes, if it's a state fee, then it operates just like a federal, state, or local income tax or real estate tax.
Okie dokie,
And
let's see.
homestead does not protect from those. It's important that people understand that, because if you have an unsecured credit card debt or if you have a medical bill from a private medical provider, those are the types of debts that are protected, that you're protected from during the course of your lifetime.
Here's something that just came in on the computer now that you were talking about, the exemption from homestead law. I'm going to read what just came in, and you can expand it them a little. Here's what they wrote. The following are exempt from the homestead law: the federal,
Yes.
state and local taxes,
Yes.
assessments, claims, and liens. First and second mortgages held by financial institutions or others. Could you
Exactly.
expand on those?
Yeah, so any type of assessment by a federal, state, or local town or city operates the same way that a tax lien would. So that tax lien is due and payable when you receive it, and the homestead exemption does not protect you from that. So your house could be foreclosed, for example, for tax liens. The Suffolk County Registry of Deeds has one of only 2 land courts in the entire country. It's because the complex transactions in Massachusetts are more complicated than anywhere else in the entire state, but also because of the vertical nature of development and the multifamily usage here in Suffolk County. And the land court is where a city or town who has a tax lien on your property takes that lien to foreclose and take properties, and the homestead exemption does not protect you from that.
Here's something that I'm reading here. Maybe I really don't understand it. It says an execution issue from the probate court to enforce its judgment that a spouse pay for the support of a spouse of minor children.
Yes.
What do they mean by that?
That becomes a state assessment. So oftentimes if you're not paying child support and your spouse is receiving state assistance in order to maintain the family and take care of the kids and provide food, and shelter and clothing for the children, and a person doesn't pay child support that's owed, the state will enter in and they will put an assessment on you, and that becomes similar to it operates the same way that a state or federal tax operates, and that becomes a state-ordered judgment, and your homestead does not protect from that. So that's one of the reasons exactly. That's a perfect example of why I say that the Suffolk County Register of Deeds is where your property rights are protected or taken away, and I'm the only person in the race. I'm number 7 on the ballot, but I'm the only one who has 15 years of real estate law experience, who understands all of the different things around liens, property boundary disputes, seawalls, and any other type of lease, residential housing rights are all happen at the Registry of Deeds. And so it's important that we elect somebody with a legal background and the community experience that I have, so that we can get that information out to the public. I'm running to protect people's homes and protect people's property rights.
Here's a question that just came up, and it's signed by Mr. X, Jeff. So
Mr. X. Well, there are a lot of folks interested in this show because you provide so much helpful information.
The question is pretty good. What happens to my homestead if I should remortgage or take out a second mortgage or home equity loan?
Thank you, Mr. X, for your great question out there.
I don't
appreciate
understand it, do you?
I do. And what it means is if you refinance your home or you take out a second mortgage, your homestead protection becomes subjugated to that second mortgage. So don't think just because you refinance your home that you're protected from that lien which came after your homestead filing. So any mortgage lien, it operates just like any other mortgage lien, and your mortgage, you have to pay your mortgage, or the bank can take your home away.
So in other words, that lien goes right down to the end till it's cleared, just like you mentioned before.
It rises to the top, and it rises above your homestead exemption.
Right. We only got about 3.5 minutes left. I'd like to ask you, what is your most famous case that you had as a real estate lawyer?
My most famous case, I would say that the ones that touched my heart the most were keeping people in their homes and defending veterans from eviction because they had PTSD issues and they were experiencing
Who would want to throw out a veteran who does have the PTSD?
What happens is other residents in the communities were complaining, and so the housing authority started eviction proceedings, and I entered as a pro bono lawyer, and I helped these families stay in their home, and we won those cases. We had to go all the way to appeal. It was a tremendous amount of work, but I'm running for Suffolk County Registry of Deeds because the Registry of Deeds is where your property rights protected. And I'm the only person in the race with real estate experience and has a legal background and understands the complicated statutes such as the homestead exemption,
Right.
and such as lien priorities and those things, and can explain those to the public. And this is an important election because your property rights are at stake. And so I'm asking people to come out and support me on September 8th. That's a Thursday this year, and the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. My name is Jeff Ross, and I'm running for Suffolk County Register of Deeds.
That's very, very good, Jeff.
Thank you.
So we still have about 2.5 minutes. Why
Okay.
don't you take 2 minutes and speak on anything you want and just leave me at 30.
So I would like to just share stories about the people that I've met because that's what keeps me going, and those are the reasons why I am running for this office, because you touch lives and you can help people change their futures. So I met a family in Hyde Park that had recently purchased a property there on Metropolitan Ave, and they had their land surveyed, and they discovered that they own more property than is recorded on the deed. These problems happen all the time. I met a woman on Otis Street in Winthrop who she wanted a copy of her deed. She paid off her mortgage, and she couldn't afford it. So we talked about the different forms that you can file for fee waivers. I met a gentleman in Revere, actually, with you when I was at a senior citizen event here at the community center. And he had a piece of registered land, and his registered land, they recorded the wrong boundary line. So he has a dispute with his neighbor, and it could be just devastating to families. And so I want to implement practices at the Registry of Deeds to prevent problems and prevent financial devastation and keep families in their homes.
Right, Jeff. You know, I got to say, I want to thank you for coming on the show, first of all.
Thank you so much,
I wish you the best
Morris.
of luck on your
Yes.
run for the Registry of Deeds, but I want to thank you for helping not only the senior citizens, but most of all, our veterans. That, to me, is the best thing any lawyer could do, is to help a veteran remain where he is.
Yes, and my grandfather was a World War II veteran. My nephew is serving in the armed services. So I appreciate you, Morris, and your service to this country, your
Thank you.
service to Revere, and I appreciate more than anything your friendship. And
Right.
thank you so much.
So I want to say thank you again for coming. God bless you, Jeff, and good luck. I want to thank all our troops that are serving overseas, all who are in the military. Thank you for your service, and God bless the people of Revere, but most of all, the great country, the United States of America. And Jeff, make sure that the Pledge of Allegiance, as a lawyer, that you protect the flag to stay in every public place.
Well, you know, I'm Jeff Ross, and I'm related to folks who sewed the flag. So God bless you. God bless
That's
the
right,
people
Betsy
of
Ross.
Winthrop. And God bless America. And thank you so much for having me.
Right, thank you. Till the next time, folks.